If you had a room without drywall on it and you just had the insulation, it would sound a lot better than that room sounds with the drywall. Unfortunately, that would be a little bit hazardous to your health because the little fibers in the insulation could get into your lungs and it wouldn't look that great. So that's why we put drywall up. What we can do then afterwards is start putting panels in strategic spots to get a good listening experience from certain areas in the room.
Trust you because
This coffee is very good. Today I wanted to talk about acoustic absorption panels, why they're important, and how to build them. So I've been in this new studio for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now, and the first thing I did after I set up the speakers and my listening position was start installing acoustic absorption panels and bass traps. So in my previous video, I talked about the bass trap build. Acoustic absorption panels are really important, even more important than your speakers oftentimes, because they allow you to have a tighter sounding mix by blocking reverb and echoes in your room so that you hear just what the speakers are emitting. Now this is important for 3 reasons, I would say. First, music will just sound way better and you'll get more enjoyment out of listening to it. But then the 2 practical things are, 1, the length of your decay on different sounds in the mix will be proper to how it actually is in the song and how you've produced and mixed it. And then finally, it's important because of the general tonal balance throughout your mix of the different frequencies. So if you have a room that reverberates certain frequencies more so than others, then your mix might sound higher in certain frequency ranges than it actually is. A lot of times you see people put up these little black foam acoustic panels everywhere, and they're the little triangular ones. And these look kind of cool, but in fact they don't do a lot, and they might actually harm how you hear your music in your studio. These panels are really thin and made of cheap material, so they actually only absorb the highest of frequencies and let mids and lows through. So your mix will actually sound a little duller than it actually is, and you won't get an accurate representation of the high frequencies in your mix. So what you really need to do is invest some time and a little bit more money into insulation and thicker materials, and this will make your mix 10 times better. I promise you, like when I've done this, it immediately sounds so much better. And it just comes down to the physics of how sound waves work. Sound waves can do 3 things when they encounter a material. Number 1, they can reflect off of it, and this often happens when you have a surface that doesn't have any porous part to it. They can pass through it, and this happens when your material isn't very dense. Lower frequencies actually pass through materials easier than higher frequencies. And then the third thing the sound waves can do is get absorbed by the material. So this is where they start bouncing off internally with the material and lose energy and dissipate in amplitude. All you need for these panels is your insulation and then a frame around it, which I made out of wood, and then fabric to go over it to prevent the particles from coming out and to make it look better. It's fairly affordable to go this route. I bought a 12-pack of Rockwool Safe and Sound insulation, which is one of the best for acoustic absorption. And this cost me like $50 to $60 US. And it had 12 pieces that were 3 inches thick, about 4 feet by 2 feet in area. I mean, out of this you could make 12 panels or a couple bass traps and 6 panels. You'll spend maybe a couple $100 building panels in your room. If you're spending, $500 on speakers, this will be less money and make a really big difference in how your room is going to sound. What I've done is I've built a frame with 3 by 1 inch pieces of wood and the frame is the size of this insulation, so 47 inches by 15 inches. I've laid these 3 by 1 inch pieces together and fastened them together. Then I put the insulation inside. I stapled a backing fabric over the back of it, and then I flipped over the panels and I placed my more decorative fabric over the top, wrapping around to the back. So I've built 3 smaller panels, which will be at the first reflection points, and then 1 larger panel composed of 3, basically 3 more panels, but that one's behind me. And then I might put in another one here on this door here, so then I just have a good amount of absorption behind me, and then at the first reflection points. And then I've also made these bass traps. When it comes to where you place your acoustic absorption panels, I'd put it in 3 different tiers. First, the most important is to put acoustic panels right at your first reflection points. So this is essentially to the left and right of your listening experience, and then 1 right above you. And you can find these positions if you're sitting there next to your speakers, an equilateral triangle between your speakers and yourself, so 60-degree angles between each, and equidistant. And then you have a second person slide a mirror alongside the wall to the left and right of you, and then you look to that mirror and see if you can see the opposite speaker reflecting in it. And whenever that position occurs, that's where the first echo will bounce off of the wall and into your ear. So it's important that these first reflections, the first major echoes that you hear from your speakers, are dampened as much as possible. Second on this list, I would say your bass traps. And in my previous video, I talked a little bit more about bass traps, but in the corners of your room, so wherever the walls meet the walls and the ceiling meets the wall, even the floor and the walls meeting, each of these, you get bass reverberations where the bass frequencies bounce back and forth and decay longer than they should. And finally, you can put panels elsewhere in your room to kind of deaden the sound a little bit and create less echo. I've put a panel directly behind me. Hi, Moch. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk a little bit about acoustic absorption panels and how I'm working on my studio. Of me learning a little bit as I'm doing it, I've never built these panels before myself, so it's actually really empowering, I'd say, to do your own acoustic treating in your room. I'm gonna have some more videos in the upcoming days of me building other parts of the studio and making some music. I have a lot of projects underway, so I'm excited to share them all with you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later.
Strong like metal, I know I trust you. You got this right.